Hey guys, we're here for round two actually. Our opponent for round one just did not show up, so we got a free win there. Didn't get to play our deck yet, and we'll play round two here and see how it goes. This hand has both of our colors and a couple three drops, so that's about as good as we can hope for in our deck. So we'll keep this. Would like to draw something a little beefier. So we have a 4 drop or a 5 drop, but we'll start with this with no problems. And we have another 3 drop, so the opponent's playing black. That's good for us. That makes me not want to run my Warthog out right away, as good as it might be, just in case he has a removal spell. I think I'll go with the Knight of Valor first, which is very hard to block. So whenever it blocks or becomes blocked, I think that if I attack with alright, so those guys phase out. His guy will phase back in on his turn. My guy will phase back in on my turn. Nothing exciting happens there. I think that with flanking, my ability will trigger first as the active player. Oh, but if my ability triggers first and then his goes on the stack, the good news is I can respond to his ability with the Knight of Valor's special ability, and still give it -1/-1. So either way, I think I can take care of Dreamfighter with Knight of Valor if he chooses to block. It is nice that our opponent is on black, since we do have 3 main deck anti-black cards. So I think our opponent will probably be smart enough not to block here, but this could be a blowout if he doesn't. I don't need to play the Forest to keep Feral Instinct up here. And I can always regenerate this if I absolutely had to, but so we took care of that guy who was kind of a pain. And now we have no play left other than to give our guy first strike. So I'm just going to go ahead and play Grasslands. And I think we want to get the Warthog out there at this point too. And lets us keep Feral Instinct up. And we can also keep this regenerate ability up pretty easily now. Which makes me less worried about something happening to my Warthog. So our opponent's playing 1 Chimera. This is probably fine as a 2/2 for a first strike. I'm wondering if we're going to see additional Chimeras though. Ooh. So he's got a 4/4 for 1 turn. I guess he can keep it. He can't even sacrifice this. I'm not sure exactly what the plan is. I don't think I care to attack into that, even though I could. He might have some kind of trick or something. I think I'm happy just to let that thing die. I'm gonna get my planes first here. I guess I could have done before my draw if I wanted to have a less chance at drawing a land. So I could attack into this, no problem. And I can just, I guess I'd have to use its ability and Feral Instinct. Or I can just play a Warthog. Or I can play a Giant Caterpillar. Let me play a Giant Caterpillar, actually. It's not the most aggressive play, but it makes better use of my mana and has some upside in the worst case scenario. I can sacrifice it and make a flyer. So I don't know if he has a plan to keep his Barrel Ghoul alive for a while, or if he's basically just it's going to hold down the fort for a couple of turns till it goes away. Okay, so you can make me discard a card at random. I don't really want to lose my Warthog, but anything else I'm kind of okay with. I think I'd rather lose a forest. So if his plan was to keep his Barrel Ghoul alive with the Mind Sucker, he can only do this as a sorcery. So that plan is not going to work. I'll swing in with my two guys that can kind of attack. Pretty easily here. Alright, I guess that was the plan. I think he thought he could sacrifice it at instant speed. So yeah, you're not going to get a 2-for-1 there. Yeah, he thought that he'd be able to sack that. It has a long text. A lot of the sacrifice effects in Mirage block are at sorcery speed only. So we'll do this. I'm not really worried about blocking the Barrow Ghoul this turn. I think we're winning the race, even if he pulls ahead temporarily. I want to keep my 5 mana around if I can, and I also want to save my forest to regenerate more important creatures than just chump blocking, since the Barrel Ghoul is on a clock anyway. Thirst. Wow. So our opponent is kind of forced to tap down his mana. He's gonna lose the barrel ghoul this turn anyway. I kind of think I just... Well, we've got Swamp Walk, so let's get in there first for 3. I like having the Feral Instinct up, but I think I'd rather just get my 3/3 flyer out there and really pull ahead in this race. I don't know if he's really gonna... So we'll run out our Griffin. I don't think there's any blue Griffins in this set. We're kind of off to the races here. He's on a 3-ish turn clock and is actually only getting worse. Since we actually have a pretty good chance at getting in there with these two guys too and making this a 2-turn clock. I'm just rereading the banding text here. Any creatures with banding and up to 1 without can attack in a band. Bands are blocked as a group. If any creatures with... Any creatures with banding you control are blocking or being blocked by a creature, you may divide that creature's combat damage, not its controller. So basically ban this guy up with anything, attack, say, with this and this as a 3/5, and then if he blocks with anything, I can distribute, you know, the damage as I choose. Huh. I wasn't sure if that would work or not, but it did. I thought maybe he had to have a target for this. I guess the sacrifice gives him the ability. Ooh, I don't think you want to do that. So he's attacking with a 4/4, which I'll just be happy to take. The guy that he has back can't block. So I guess our opponent is not getting the second blue mana that he needs. But then Thirst isn't really doing him any favors either. I don't think I want to play my creature right now. I think this is one of those scenarios where if he has some kind of board wipe, which is possible in blue-black, I'm just not going to overcommit to the board. He's at 4. I've got 6 unblockable right now. So just in case he has some monster spell, we have Miraculous Recovery to bring back our best creature, and then we have a creature in hand. No reason to overextend. So we got game 1. I think we're already playing all our sideboard cards against this guy. We didn't see any artifacts. I don't think any of these are that important. Nothing that makes me think he's really aggressive or anything. Word of Lights could be good, but we already have 1. This is also a pretty defensive spell, and we actually ended up being more aggressive than him. So I think we're going to just stick with what we have. I don't think anything in my deck is especially bad. No problem with playing this guy again. This is especially good with him having some enchantments. So yeah, we're just going to run this back. Alright, game two. We got another reasonable hand here. Stampeding Wildebeest is kind of trouble for us, but our opponent has mulligan. We have a 3-drop, we have a 5-drop, and we got both colors. So we're going to stick with this. We're going to hope we draw a cheap green creature because Stampeding Wildebeest on turn 4 is going to be pretty powerful. Even if we don't draw a green creature, if our opponent has a quicker start, we can at least play this as a blocker every turn. It's also a card that we don't mind trading, knowing that we have the Miraculous Recovery later. Thinking that if we get to the late game and this is in our graveyard, we have a decent chance of having a green creature in play and also being able to cast this. Looks like our opponent is having mana issues. So he mulligans with 5. And basically mulliganed 4 since he had to Mystical Tutor. But at least he got a couple bucks. I've played a couple of these. I've had very poor luck in getting money cards. I opened an Enlightened Tutor, which I knew was worth 20 some tickets, and then I accidentally passed it by misclicking while I was looking at the rest of the cards in the pack. So I have not managed to get any money. So this is good to know. Our opponent has a 5 mana Desertion. We will definitely have to play around that. That is a great spell, also worth a couple of bucks, so opponent did quite fine monetarily. Although I think his deck is not that good. I was going to say, if he actually drops some creatures here, and then can protect his board presence with Desertion, we could be in trouble. We don't want to see him get to 5 mana anytime soon. So, he missed 2 land drops in a row. That means that we'll be able to get Zuberi Golden Feather out without the threat of Desertion. Alright. I think I'm just going to play Llanowar Sentinel here because I can always return it to my hand with the Wildebeest and then get the second one, which is kind of a slow line of play, but I don't have anything else to do with my mana on this turn, and it gives me options next turn. I can play the Wildebeest, especially if my opponent is still struggling, or I can just play the Golden Feather and start beating down like that. Alright. So, a memory lapse is not the worst thing in the world. Since this time I'll be able to pay the mana at least. This is just like a draft of free wins right now. We didn't play at all in game 1, and we're barely playing in game 2. Alright. So he's got the Dream Fighter to blank whatever our um I think I like playing this out because he can't block it with Dream Fighter, so it's actually a better clock than Fallow Worm, which Fallow Worm will just end up being the card he blocks every turn with Dream Fighter. Oh, I did not mean to play this forest. Phantom Warrior, so the unblockable. So he can't actually double block, which is kind of interesting. No, I mean he can double block, but not for the win. Not to kill a guy. Pretty reasonable clock. Our opponent has a question on something. I'm just going to pause for a second and be right back. He was just asking about the Dream Fighter in last game. When I used the Knight's ability to give it -1/-1, I guess he didn't see that I did that, so he wasn't sure why his Dream Fighter didn't phase. So play the Wildebeest. Opponent says that's overkill. But he's got a desertion in hand. I'm not going to hold back a creature. I guess my opponent thinks I'm overextending, but with the mana that he's showing, I'm just trying to end the game quickly. I don't know what he has in his deck exactly. Yeah, I'm agreeing with my opponent that the big creatures like Stampeding Wildebeest seem to be the key to drafting in this format. It has a very different feel from any modern draft set. You see something like a 4/4 with the downside, and your money. Most our opponent never had to see all of our main deck black hate. I think that would have just made him rage quit. So I didn't do the math. I think he still lives this turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I guess. I guess I just go for the win here. Alright, So that's round two, and we'll be back for round three.